Well, hello. Welcome to episode 5 of the Jay's Cultural Arts Corner podcast. I'm John Wilson, Director of Cultural Arts at the Jay. And as usual, we are coming to you from the palatial, the majestic, the gorgeous podcast studios at Cobalt Communications here in Fenton, Missouri. Now, today I'm getting to sit down with the youth theater coordinator. Her name is Carly Lucas, and she is responsible for bringing our biannual youth theater productions to fruition without friction, which isn't easy, Carly, because you have 60 children that are often involved in many of these productions. So we're going to be talking all about that. So thanks for being here.
It's awesome. I'm really excited to be here.
All right. So what I like to do with each guest is I like to just back up the calendar a little bit and find out, where they were the last couple of years before they found their position at the Jay, and just kind of find out what that journey looked like, and then ultimately ask them, how long they've been in the position that they're in. So why don't you just have a freestyle riff on your own and just tell me who Carly is and what were you doing and how'd you end up at the Jay?
You got it. Let's go back to May 2021. I was living in the small town of Muncie, Indiana.
Wow.
I graduated from Ball State University with a BFA in dance, a minor in business because I was originally a double major, and then I decided I really wanted to go full send with dance. And I was also one of 10 students in my graduating class to receive academic honors in writing, which is really cool combination of interests to have, and it's really benefited me greatly. I'm super thankful for my education. It's done a lot for me. I had some really great professors. I met some really great people, a lot of whom I'm still connected with. And then, so I graduated May 8th, and May 22nd, I took an impulsive trip to St. Louis with my roommate, Mary. We were actually freshman year roommates, and we've been living together since, because on May 22nd, we auditioned for Consuming Kinetics Dance Company, which we still dance for after we booked that gig together. And that's how I'm in St. Louis. So my life is full of dance. It's full of teaching, performing, and as well as being a youth theater producer.
So wait a second. So just on a whim, you and your friend from college chose St. Louis and came down here to check it out and ended up auditioning for a dance company. And is she still working for them as well?
Yes, yeah, we both are. We're working together to collaborate on a piece that we're making together this year, which is really exciting. It's been a really great way to sort of find closure in that chapter, since we're both realizing we're not going to live together forever. But yeah, it's been a good time.
That's pretty rare when you have, I know we all have college friends that we hang on to and know for quite some time, but it's kind of rare that you have that one friend that you venture off into life together and you move in together and you're doing life and you're doing career, and so that sounds like a really special friendship.
Oh yeah, and it's been so crazy. We're both from the far west suburbs of Chicago. She's from the near west suburbs. I'm from the far west suburbs. But we had to go all the way to Muncie, Indiana to meet each other. And so this is the second place that we've lived together that we've known of. But yeah, it's been a long time and a good time.
So you're here, you're auditioning, you're part of a dance company. And then what attracted you? How'd you find out about the position at the Jay, and what attracted you to the position, and whatever came into your head that said, I want to coordinate youth theater productions that involved 60 children and their parents and a staff and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, this is actually a great story. So when I moved here, I moved for my dance job, and I found a teaching job outside of that. And then on top of that, to make my survival income, I was a delivery driver for a company called Shipt. So I would go do people's grocery shopping and drop it off at their door. And it was a great gig. I totally recommend it if you're looking for a side hustle, because it pays well, it's easy. You do it on your own time. But there's this Facebook page called St. Louis Dance Network or something like that, and they had posted an opening for a choreographer position at the J for Willy Wonka Jr. So I applied for that. It was like an easy Sunday side hustle thing, and I got the position, and I was like, this is great. It's another little thing that I can add on top of all the other hats I'm wearing, and it got me back into theater because I hadn't been in the theater world for a while. And then I want to say I got hired in like November for rehearsals to start in January. And then around December, the current producer who was in my position reached out to all of the staff and was like, hey, like, we've really been trying to find someone to fill my position. If you know anyone, like, please let us know, reach out. And in my head, there was a little voice that was like, oh, should I do it? Like, I'm looking for something extra to do. Like, is that weird to say, like, I might be interested. And then I just like forgot about it. And eventually Diane Meyer, who was in your position, talked to Amber, who was in my position, and was like, what about your choreographer? Like, do you think she'd be interested in it? Because Amber, who was here before me, also came in as the choreographer and did both for her first semester here. And so she reached out to me, and I was like, why not? I'll go to this interview. I sat in with Rabbi Brad and Diane Meyer, and we talked it out, and I ended up getting the job, and I've been here ever since. So,
so this was like maybe 3 show cycles ago, right?
Yeah.
Is this your 3rd show or your 4th show?
It's my 3rd show, so It would have been in January 2022.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And so you've been here for over a year and gone through 2 show cycles. Okay. That is a fun story, and good for you for just having the idea that, hey, there's an opening. The thing about artists is that we all have these side hustles. We're all looking to have different and varied streams of income. Mm-hmm. But then sometimes we hear about a particular side hustle that might be more lucrative and more consistent, and it's like, yeah, the eyes light up, the ears perk up, and so good for you. Now, when you started this, did you understand like the administrative side of like how heavy that was going to be, and were you intimidated by all of the organizational moxie that you have to do this position?
I kind of remember this like being a conversation in my interview that came up. And I remember saying that when I was in college, I was the president of a organization called Student Dance Association, where we brought in guest artists, and we sort of had like weekly check-in sessions for dance majors and stuff like that. So I already did a lot of like administrative leadership in that world, and that was kind of why I was like, oh, I could do this because I did that. And I think sometimes I still hear like corporate lingo circling around, and I'm like, I have no idea what that means. But I think like as far as the theater side, it's really helpful that I have an arts background because I understand the theater lingo, like tech and, words that we use that people on the corporate side don't understand.
Yeah. Okay. So let's jump in and just like talk about like the actual job itself. So one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, as the youth theater coordinator, like what do you literally coordinate? Like take me from the idea that a show has been chosen and you need to find a directing and design team, and you need a staff, and then there needs to be casting and all that kind of stuff, right up to the end, when there are actual performances. So just, just kind of dovetail in and out of all the different areas in which you are, boots on the ground coordinating this whole process.
Of course. Yeah. Like you said, it's so many things to coordinate. And I serve as like the youth theater production manager. And so like if you're a listener and you're unfamiliar with what a production manager is, I'm thinking of my mom. She would be like, I have no idea what that means, Carly. I don't understand your job. You're in charge of like making everything, all the little moving pieces and parts of the production fit together. You're like the logistics person, behind the scene person, all of that. You're the budget person. And so I'm coordinating all of these administrative side things with youth theater as it relates to the J, and how our budget fits into all of these things, and how me being a manager aligns with all of the things that other managers have to learn, as well as spearheading parent communications all the time. So making sure that the people who are registered for my program know what's going on and know where their kid has to be and when they have to be there and what things they have to bring and when they need to know their lines. And like it never ends. It's an ongoing list of like, okay, the parents don't know this information yet, but they need to know this information. And my staff doesn't know this information yet, but I need to tell them this then. So it's just like a list that just keeps on going until the show's over, and then you start over for the next one.
So this really brings up like the biggest question for me is how did you know like how to do everything that it is that you do? And I mean, Rabbi Brad is a great mentor. I'm sure Diane was a great mentor. And they're hands-on and they definitely help. But like, you know, you didn't necessarily in your undergraduate training learn about, you know, ways to communicate with 60 different sets of parents and then just all the organizational stuff that goes on with doing this job. So just tell me like how you learned it or just the instincts that came about when you were first doing this.
Absolutely. Ball State, where I went to college, has an exceptional theater and dance program. And that is where I learned it all. By the mentors who communicated with me, I watched that communication style and that level of organization, and I had those same expectations put on me of like, you're a student choreographer, so you need to tell your cast these things by this time, or you need to communicate to the photographer what images you want for your piece, otherwise you're not getting images. That type of thing. The communication towards me, I observed, and then I had to return that level of communication to the people above me. And I just think really seeing that level of organization modeled for me from the beginning of my freshman year was really just something I picked up on. I mean, there was this form that we had to do general auditions every semester. And there was this form that we had to fill out before general auditions that said, like, I will perform as cast, I won't cut my hair, blah, blah, blah. But there was a section on there that was like, tell me all of your conflicts for next semester. And if you don't tell me them now, they're not excused. So that had to be like, my cousin's wedding is this date, or like that type of stuff. And if you didn't say them then, you were not excused. So just having that really strict but very important set of guidelines on me is what helped me be able to transferred that level of communication to other people.
Yeah, it really sounds like one of the benefits that you have just in your persona, Carly, is that you really pay attention. You're really a good student. You're really a good listener, and you assimilate and acclimate and make things your own. You learn what the expectations are, and then you can also know how to replicate things. I think that you came into this position with an outline of when things would happen and what some of the best, policies and procedures were. And you followed that and massaged those and make them your own and whatnot. So you really, adapt and adapt to your circumstances. And it's a big part of why I think you're successful.
Thank you. Thank you. I really value efficiency. That's like my thing.
And
I had a teacher who really valued efficiency too. So every time I'm doing something for the second or third time, it's a more elevated version of that thing.
Yeah. I can totally tell that efficiency and organization and administrative things they're just right up your alley, and I think that's really great. Well, let's talk about what's literally coming up next. So I want you to tell me the show that you are currently producing and in rehearsals for, and maybe how many kids are involved, and if you have any, anecdotal stories about the process with this show so far, you can certainly tell me that. But yeah, let's talk about what's coming up.
Cool. We are in the process of working on Annie Jr., which is super exciting because we've never done Annie at the J before, and we just did Peter Pan for like the third time. So it's good to have a first out there. We have lots of firsts, but this is one that's particularly exciting to me because I love this show. My first dance recital, I did a dance to Hard Knock Life from Annie. And what is so funny is that I found this picture of me in the orphan costume taken on May 17th, 2008, I think, which is exactly 15 years before Annie Jr. opens at the J on May 17th.
That's crazy. Mm-hmm. Okay, even though we're recording this live. Do you have a picture?
I do have a picture.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna give it to Ethan and see if he can show it on the screen while we're doing this podcast, while we're talking about it. So
Amazing.
hopefully by now the picture's already been up and everyone's been watching you from 15 years ago. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Love that. Yeah. So that's my crazy thing that I figured out after we chose the show. But we open May 17th. We have another show on May 18th, and then we have 2 shows on May 21st. We have 4 shows because our youngest littles, our kindergarten through 2nd graders, are only in 2 out of the 4 shows, just so they have an easier tech week. But it should be a good one. We're getting real close to tech. We only rehearse Sundays for 3 hours. And like you said, we have 59 children exactly, which is pretty good for this point in the process. Like we usually have a few more drop by then just for sports or other conflicts,
Sure.
or the Sundays get too hard or overwhelming. But we have a full 59 and going strong, but really only a few more rehearsals left until we're in tech, which is, we're really getting down to the wire, but we're super excited.
And this is Sundays typically only, unless a number of Sundays had to get canceled. You might pick a day in the week or something, from what I understand. But so tell me about how these kids do with building momentum and being able to hold on to only being in rehearsal for 3 hours every Sunday. What are some of the strategies you and your staff and even working with parents, I imagine, employ to get those students really ready for this performance?
For sure. Yeah. Rehearsal once a week is tough. I think any like theater or dance educator would agree that only having a once a week rehearsal to do an entire show is a pretty big task. And on top of that, Sunday rehearsals also call for like, oh, my friend's birthday party is this weekend. Oh, I have this family thing out of town. And like, in order to keep our program accessible, like we let them have as many absences as they need, as long as they're reported ahead of time so we can plan. But that being said, like there are sometimes kids who miss 2 rehearsals in a row, maybe 3, and that gets stressful on our end. But something that I think we do a really good job of is taking practice videos at rehearsal, and we have a shared parent-student Google folder. And so they're constantly being reminded, like, watch the dances, do the dances with the video, try the dances without the video. Our music director usually will, like, play the songs on the piano, so they have practice tracks, and with guide vocals, we really give them, like, all of the resources they need to practice at home. And we continually tell the parents, like, set aside a little time for this every day so you're not cramming on Saturday night before rehearsal. And then on Sundays, like, once we're getting towards when we're like close to running the show at rehearsal, but not quite there yet, they realize that like, oh, we're not going to review every single dance, every single rehearsal. So I need to know them, whether or not we're going to do them in rehearsal or not, because I'm going to have to do them on stage in a matter of a few weeks. So it really teaches them the skill of like being accountable for themselves, and regardless of whether or not they know the plan for rehearsal before they walk in the door, they're prepared for anything to happen. And they do a really great job.
Don't you love that about theater? Just talking about those transferable skills that kids are learning, that the sense of, you know, being able to communicate clearly, being disciplined, showing up on time, memorizing your lines or memorizing your choreography or your blocking, being able to be present in a moment, emotionally available, all those kinds of things. I'm sure you've seen, when you're there every Sunday, you've seen kids start, you know, say in this particular process, you've seen kids start at a certain measurable level of you know, societal connection and ability to integrate themselves in January. And I bet that looks very different by the time you roll around to May. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah, 100%. You see kids develop like confidence skills and like building friendships and learning a lot about themselves and how to take care of others in a rehearsal process. It's a beautiful thing to see.
And I think for any parents that would be watching this or friends of parents that would be watching this, it would be encouraging to know that you start with 60, you're only down to 59, and you're a couple weeks from opening, which means there's a cohesiveness. There's a genuine sense of, I imagine, enjoyment and pride from those kids and from their parents watching this start to come to its closing where they're going to be up and performing. And so parents are always looking for ways to engage their kids, and it sounds like the youth theater program at the J is really providing a wonderful service for not just the children, but for parents and their level of comfort in watching the maturation of their own kids.
Absolutely, yeah. And from show to show, too. Like, we have so many kids who come back from each show. I think this last time maybe 35 or 40 from Peter Pan are in Annie Jr., and they just continue on, and they grow, and they grow, and they grow, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, that's really great. And that actually brings up something that I think is important for maybe first-time parents or people who don't have kids in the program to realize. So before we talk a few more logistics about Annie Jr., tell me how soon after Annie Jr. closes will you open up the portal for participation, and how quickly will that fill?
We will open registration for our next show, which is to be determined. We don't know the show yet. Probably about 2 days after Annie Jr. closes, maybe 3. We're playing with like a priority registration thing that we did last time, where like current families can register first. Last time after priority registration closed and public registration opened, which was like after the first 24 hours, we filled in 9 minutes.
Oh my gosh, 9 minutes?
Yes, because we had like 35 or 40 from the previous show, and then the rest were on my email list of like, this is when it opens. I encourage you to register right at 9 a.m. And I think like people at 9:09 are like, this is a mistake, right? Like, it's full already. And I was like, yeah, I'm so sorry. Wow. We consistently have like the full 60 registered for weeks and weeks and weeks, a wait list of like 20, 30, 40. I mean, for Peter Pan, like the registration like opened in May, but the show didn't start to August. So of course, over the summer, you have kids like, oh, I want to do this sport instead. And then they drop and that type of thing. I think we went through like 35 people on the wait list, which is crazy. Like at one point, 95 kids were interested in doing the show.
And from your recollection, when you first started, was the wait list that big always, like when you first started, or has it just been growing, exponentially as you've been here?
I would say it's been growing. It's tricky because the first show after the pandemic was Mary Poppins, and then the one right after that was Willy Wonka when I first got here. So they were still kind of coming back after years of not being in the theater. And the program was full. We had like 56 or 58, so not quite full, but close to full. And I remember being told, like, you're not going to have to worry about registration. It's going to be fine. But I didn't realize how much I was not going to have to worry about registration, because then when we opened registration for Peter Pan, we didn't do a priority registration or anything like that. We filled in less than 24 hours, and I had parents being like, Are you kidding me? It's closed already. My kid's been in this for years. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. And it ended up working out for most of them because of like the drops and stuff. But no, I had no idea. And it's gotten more competitive and more competitive ever since.
Well, I want to congratulate you, because part of that is your organization. Part of that is in your leadership. You're doing something right when it comes to the way who you hire for these shows, the staff that you have, the way that you guys take care of the kids, the communication that you have for your parents. And so, congratulations on that, because you're obviously doing something really, really well to keep the interest in this program. This program has no problem filling up and serving the community that we're serving. And so it's really exciting. And I think you should be, pat yourself on the back for some of the things that are happening in your program.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, let's talk specifically. Mention the dates one more time. Tell us how we get tickets, and then also whether it's your contact information or the best contact information for any parents who haven't had their kids participate in youth theater, but they're watching this and they're like, oh my gosh, I would love to have my kid do this. Make sure you also give us the contact information, or just the ways in which people can get information about registering for the fall and winter slot that's coming up, okay? But let's start with Annie Junior tickets and just kind of how all that works.
Great. Annie Junior tickets are $14 plus like some little processing fees on showpass.com/Annie-Junior. They are on sale as of today, actually. So get them when you can. They're general admission, so your whole party doesn't need to buy their tickets all at once. Our house will open 30 minutes prior, and you will want to get there 30 minutes prior because it's all ground level seating and it's very competitive, just like the program. But it's a super affordable show, easy to see for the family, all of that. It's only about an hour, hour and a half, so you can take your kids and they'll have a great time.
And then tell me the dates one more time.
May 17th, May 18th, and May 21st. We have 2 shows.
Okay. And now if parents want to really keep their eyes peeled for the next registration and getting their own kids involved, what should they be looking for?
They should contact me directly. Because our program is so competitive, the J, we don't always advertise it a ton because it's almost like false advertising if we push it and push it and push it and then it's full right away. So contact me at clucas, Lucas, at jccstl.org. Email's always the best way to contact me. Most of my parents know that already, but you can also call me 314-442-3239 and call me or email me in early May to get on my list, and I'll email you in mid-May and say, this is the show we're doing, this is when registration is, this is how you do it. Make sure you're on your computer at 9 a.m. on whatever day we choose.
Okay. And speaking of the next show, you've already revealed that you don't have that next show chosen yet. What's your process for choosing a show, and when do you think you'll have a title?
Yeah. So I really value letting my staff pick what they want to do creatively because that's enriching
great.
for them.
Yeah.
It creates a good experience for them. It keeps them around. But like me, they're also gig workers. And so if they have another show the same day as our show, they might have to tap out and, that type of thing. It's all like puzzle piecing lives together. So I have to hear from them if they're coming back first. And then once I know they're coming back, they can say like, oh, I might be interested in directing this, or, oh, I directed this somewhere else. And so it would be a really easy thing for me to do. And that would be nice. Something like the criteria we always look for is something with a lot of roles. Even if they're just like named roles that appear in one scene, like something where the most amount of kids can have a name, and something that we haven't done in like 4.5 years is usually our standard.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Good to know how that process works. This has been really wonderful, Carly. I'm so glad we're getting to get a broader profile of what you do and who you are. Let's finish out by just talking about the other ambitions that you have. I mean, you did come here. You're still a member of a dance company. It's amazing that the youth theater coordinator is not a full-time position. It's a part-time position, which even makes it more amazing that you are doing the work that you are doing with the program. But when you are away from this, you've got what you do with your dance company. What are some of the bigger ambitions? We backed up the calendar a couple of years when we started the conversation. Let's fast forward the calendar in the next 5 to 10 years. And what are your ambitions, and what do you hope to be doing in the future?
Absolutely. I think my long-term goal as an artist is to become fully freelance and create my own work and take teaching gigs and all of that kind of stuff, which is why I love this part-time position because it's so flexible. It allows me to dip my toes into all the different areas of my life that I'm excited about and wear lots of different hats. I would say most of my interests are in dance and choreography. More so in the professional realm than the youth realm, but both are enriching to me in different ways. And then in more of the near future, if I can give a little shameless plug, I'm performing at the end of April with my dance company with a show called Desensitized. It's an original concert combination of works, and it's centered around a really hard but very important topic, which is the gun violence epidemic. And so myself and my best friend are working on a really great 20-minute piece that we've been working on for a while about places that are meant to cultivate community and safety and acceptance, especially for queer people, for trans people, places like bars or music festivals that are meant to find that safety and how they're disrupted by violence. So really finding more choreographic opportunities like that I'm working on right now, and performance opportunities is really what I see myself doing in the long-term future.
And that's so purposeful, isn't it? I mean, the power, whether it's music, whether it's theater, whether it's film, whether it's books, whether it's dancing, all those artistic mediums engage the imagination, engage life, engage the power of storytelling to be able to, like Shakespeare has Hamlet saying, hold a mirror up to nature so that we can really take a look at what's going on in our own lives and have some perspective and really contemplate and meditate on the good. So that's really great. And it sounds like you're excited about these opportunities. And is it hard to choreograph something on your own, to take concept into actual choreography when you're the person directing yourself?
I want to say no. Like, I think my brain has always worked that way. I remember being like a 10-year-old with my MP3 player in the back of my parents' minivan, like listening to music and starting it over and like thinking about what people, bodies, and space would look like. And even like, okay, I would cut the music here and then it would fade into this next song. Like, car rides were never long for me because that's just how I've always seen movement. And it's really fulfilling. And I don't want to say easy because it's not always easy, but it comes naturally to me and it makes me feel fulfilled.
Well, that's such a good point, because when you're wired for something, when you feel like your purpose is one particular thing, and you discover it as a young person, and then get to pursue education experiences that bring that out and develop that, that becomes one of the most life-affirming and purpose-fulfilling journeys that you can take with your craft. So you've known that you've kind of been wired this way and have wanted to do these kinds of things for quite some time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I feel like our patrons and our parents have seen you pull back the veil and let us know, what goes on in bringing like 60 young performers and introducing them to a theatrical production and its process. And I just want to say thank you for being the leader that you are, and the way that you are an example to your staff, and the way that you treat them and you treat the children, the parents, and the asset that you are to the J and to our broader community. So thank you so much for the work that you do, Carly.
Thank you.
Yeah, this has been a great conversation. All right, well, there you have it. That is episode 5. Make sure that you get your tickets to Annie Jr. and come out and see this marvelous production, and then play that sweating waiting game as you look to register for the next show shortly thereafter. Well, thanks so much for joining us. And until next time, read a book, watch a film, attend a play, and we'll see you at the J.